So I'm here with Randy Bias. He's one of the execs of Cloud Scaling, and I know he was sometime he was at GoGrid, because I talked to those guys, and you show up in a lot of places. Obviously, the friends that you're keeping are a testimony to the knowledge that you've gained and experience you've had, you've gotten around. And so, what I'd like to do is find out what your perspective on these latest developments in cloud computing are. Take it from any level you want.
Yeah, well, I think right now what we're seeing is sort of a divergence. There's sort of two paths that people are taking. They're thinking about sort of the enterprise cloud model, which we really think of as sort of virtualization 2.0. It's how do I get server consolidation, further, how do I get a little bit more automation around how I manage my virtual machines in my existing enterprise data center. Maybe how do I take some very old applications and virtualize them and manage them a little bit better. That's sort of path number one. And then the path that we think is, that our business is focused on is really path number two, what we call sort of web scale clouds, or more that Amazon Web Services model, where it's really about new next generation applications like big data apps, mobile applications, new software as service applications that are being designed to sort of meet a different set of needs. They have elasticity needs, they have the needs to sort of be run in parallel, big batch jobs, big data jobs, and that's really sort of our focus, and we think that that's where a lot of the growth is, and that's where sort of the interesting use cases are, and that's where people are really focused more on sort of top line revenue opportunities rather than sort of bottom line, server consolidation, optimization opportunities.
So I know at Cloud Expo 11, this show here, we're seeing a lot of new cloud management solutions coming along. Small companies, Xenos. There's New Relic. They do the monitoring. Of course, you have RightScale, and you have some of the other companies that make their business about managing existing clouds and integrating clouds into hybrid clouds. And this is getting confusing for people. So I'm wondering, where do they look? I mean, what do they use to come out of the fog, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these terms in cloud and cloud computing get used in ways that are hard to it's sort of hard to look through the murk and kind of understand what's going on. Just the term cloud itself gets confusing. So if you say cloud management, what does it mean? Am I managing applications? Am I managing infrastructure? Am I managing governance? And I think the answer is that all of these folks are operating at different layers of the stack. So where Xenos and New Relic are is completely different from where RightScale is. And you've got to go out there and do your research. And I don't think you should be thinking about cloud management just because of the murkiness. I think you should be using terms that maybe make more sense, like virtual server management, application management, the traditional terms that we've used. I mean, cloud and cloud computing really haven't changed those aspects that much. I mean, there's a virtualized, abstracted layer, on top of these resource pools that we use now. I mean, you're talking to that rather than the physical underlying infrastructure most of the time. But otherwise, it hasn't really changed. The abstraction's kind of moved up. So, I mean, I think that sort of just behooves you to do the research. I don't know any way to really clear the fog in that regard. It just is what it is. It's going to be murky until it gets clear. And the only thing I would say is that, again, kind of going back to what I said previously, there's really two sets of critical use cases here. There's the set where you're trying to optimize your existing applications in data center, and there's the set where you're trying to enable new business opportunities for the app dev folks in your enterprise. And this second set is, I think, where people are hurting themselves the most. Like how to do virtualization, make it better. I mean, this is well understood. You add some automation. You do a bunch of the things that VMware is doing around it. That's easy. That's really easy. It's a relatively trivial problem. The problem is that I'm seeing is that the demand inside the enterprise is increasing around this second use case, which is that app developers are bottled up inside the enterprise trying to be more effective. They want to do the right thing. They want to create opportunities for the enterprise to be successful, for themselves to be successful, but they can't because they need to go through a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork and things like this. And it's not sufficient to just provide a self-service portal and allow somebody to turn on the VM, because when they can go to Amazon Web Services and do something like turn on 10,000 virtual machines to test an idea and only spend $100 for an hour for 10,000 virtual machines, that's what you need to unlock for them. And so putting all kinds of governance on them and like controlling them and some of these other things is actually somewhat antithetical to solving that set of use cases.
So it looks like test and dev are hot, but PaaS is also heating up a lot. There's a lot of, like Krish always talks about PaaS being the next big thing, and then you have Cloud Foundry, and you have OpSource, and some of those guys that have quote-unquote platforms, but developers really like to be on a platform that allows them to use different frameworks. They like to be able to use JavaScript, Node, or Python, or one of those other things, and so then you talk about the bottled up app developers inside a company, but they don't have to worry so much about the platform, where somebody provides the database, somebody provides all of that stuff. I mean, where do you see all that heading?
So platform as a service and just platforms in general, I think, have a huge amount of potential, but they really lag software as a service and infrastructure as a service. And mostly I think that's because people think that they understand software as a service or applications, and they think they understand infrastructure as a service or infrastructure, compute, network, and storage, but they don't really understand platform very well. It's sort of a new category in a lot of ways. In some ways, people think of infrastructure as a service and software as a service as existing categories that have just been changed. They're on demand, they're online, they're virtualized, you pay for what you use. I don't quite agree with that characterization, but that's kind of what, it relates to why platform as a service lags so much. It's because people are uncomfortable with it, they don't really understand it, and I think it's gonna take a while for it to really catch on.
So maybe we can close by touching on one of your favorite subjects, which would be OpenStack.
Sure.
Something that you recently announced that you're going to double down on, I guess the word
Double down on OpenStack, that's right.
So how does cloud scaling see that and shaking out?
So I guess the way that we look at this is that, the internet is basically an open network that, pretty much anybody can join or get access to. And clouds need to be open as well. And so our focus is on using open source and open hardware and a bunch of, similar components, open APIs, to enable our customers to build clouds that look like these next generation web scale clouds, much like Amazon Web Services, and then to, have those connected together hopefully over time. I mean, I think it'll take a while to get there, but the internet provided a lot of value the more people that were connected to it. And I think clouds are similar. We need them to not be walled gardens so much, we need them to be connected. This is why you see a lot of interest around hybrid clouds or federation and some of these other things, but I think that the desire is out ahead of the technology, and so we're looking to really sort of help solve that problem by helping our customers really start from an open base and then be able to move forward and connect to other people's clouds. I want OpenStack to basically take off. I want Nebula to be successful. I want Piston to be successful. But right now, OpenStack still, there's a lot more smoke than there is fire. I mean, we've deployed and put in production two OpenStack OpenStack storage Swift clouds, and we've done one OpenStack compute cloud, and we're in the process of doing a very large-scale OpenStack compute cloud. So in terms of like real deployments, production with OpenStack, as far as I'm concerned, cloud scaling is way out ahead of everybody else.
Are you talking about KT?
KT is not based off OpenStack, except for their storage, which is based off OpenStack storage.
So obviously you haven't announced those yet. So
KT OpenStack storage, the uCloud storage product is announced and is public now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, all the original OpenStack proponents, excluding VMware, Citrix, Rackspace, and then some of these offshoots. Citrix bought Cloud.com, and they have something called CloudStack, but it's not truly OpenStack.
That's correct.
So they're departing from it because they guess the timing just wasn't perfect. When they saw Cloud.com on the market, they said, what do we need with this to be completely religious to Cloud, to OpenStack? We'll just use what Cloud.com is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what Citrix is going to say publicly, but it's a not so widely held secret that there was a very large bidder against Citrix that was trying to acquire Cloud.com that Citrix saw as a potential competitor. And so, I believe that one part of their desire to own Cloud.com was definitely to have something they could sell today, and they may not have felt they could do that with OpenStack. But another part of it was that it was definitely a defensive move to try to maintain a certain amount of control in the ecosystem. If there was a one of the large, Fortune 50 companies that, is a player in the IT space, if one of them owned Cloud.com and was actively working against OpenStack, that would be a very large problem for Citrix over the long haul. Now, that being said, they paid a very large price tag for Cloud.com, reportedly $200 million plus, so they're going to be pushing very hard to actually try to sell it as a solution. And it's a reasonable product, but it's not something that you could build a scalable cloud on by any means. And we used it extensively at KT for that compute offering, and it was good for what it did. And I think you could build sort of a small to medium-sized cloud on it. But if you want to do anything very serious, you actually need a non-monolithic architecture. Now, they claim that they're going to be able to basically take the CloudStack portal and user interface, which I wouldn't have thought to be one of the better interfaces out there to begin with, but they claim that they're going to take that and they're going to put it on top of OpenStack, and maybe they will, and maybe that'll be awesome, but I seriously doubt it. My guess is that we're going to see them continue to sell CloudStack and also, in parallel, trying to work to make OpenStack successful.
My battery's running down, but I just wanted to say that right where you're standing, Jeff Samuels was standing this morning, and I told him that you must have done something good over there, because GoGrid's coming out to be one of the best cloud service providers out there in terms of availability and performance, and they win all the benchmarks. I don't know what else they do right or wrong, but that was one of the things that stuck out.
Well, I appreciate that. A lot of the core GoGrid architecture team is now cloud scaling.
Well, Randy Bias with his thoughtfulness and relevance, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.